Hello everyone, I'm Meltdown Boy. Today we're going to be talking about my favourite art books. Art books have been a thing in my life for so many years, since about 2019 where I got my first art book, which we will be talking about the story and sort of how I got into it. I think art books are such a good exploration, appreciation for the artists and the hard work that they put in, and I've always been excited or intrigued by sort of the things that we could have gotten, things that have changed in the final project. There will also be like an honorable mentions page, but I think these are my really the art books that I hold dear. So the first art book that I ever got was the Death Stranding art book. In 2019 I became hugely into Death Stranding, and I still am to this day. But yes, I have a whole video on my love of Death Stranding and how I got into Death Stranding and my journey with Death Stranding, so please go watch that. But I think my connection to this book is a really big part of that. I wanted to dedicate a whole video to my love of art books. People who know me outside of the mask and the screen know that I love art books and have kind of always had a fascination with concept art and behind the scenes content. I think the earliest thing I remember seeing for behind the scenes stuff was the San Winston studio, where they made all the animatronics for Jurassic Park, and the work they did for that. So in general I think concept art is just such a fascinating development process in film, video games, TV, so to pay tribute to that and buy a book I think is a wonderful thing. It also is a great conversation piece. So yeah, to begin with, I think my connection between art books and coffee has always been a really strong one. Lockdown, I would read this book and I got into coffee by just being like, oh, I'll try it, and now I'm an absolute coffee addict. I have like a whole coffee station and I really kind of tried to get into the world of coffee, but it kind of all started with my love of art books, so there's always like a path that you can trace back to one singular thing. Lockdown, I would just come down. It would usually just be wake up, let's say I get my pajamas on, my slippers on, and come downstairs, make myself a cup of coffee, read an art book or two, and then get to doing my college work. But the thing that got added onto that later on was my love of my record player. I think the combination of the record player, the coffee, and the art books kind of all cemented into one. There's a huge yearning for having a chill morning is the best way I could describe it. And that's sort of where art books kind of still is for me. I love just sitting down and reading through all these worlds and these stories and getting immersed in them. So, yes. And another little fun nugget that's kind of looped back around for this art book is just the idea that I got my tattoo, which is of a BT from this game, the ghosts. If you haven't played it, check out the video again. Yeah, the ghosts in the game have a very specific look, and the tattoo that I have is right here. The tattoo, the face of the BT. I sent my tattoo artist a bunch of pictures from the concept art book, and they particularly liked the idea of using some of the old concepts, so it's nice to see that my love of art books and Death Stranding kind of coalesced into one tattoo, which I think is really fun. You'll have a picture on the screen of my tattoo, but I think getting immersed in this book, also the smell of the book is incredible. If you ever have it, it's just a wonderful scent for an art book. It's wonderful. It's really nice, and I encourage you to get this up one if you've played the game or if you're interested in art books, or you just want a really nice looking art book to sit on your coffee table. I think this is wonderful. It's got really nice golden edges to the paper, which is really nice, so I encourage you to do it on that front. The next one I have to show you is the Blade Runner 2049 art book. This one's interesting because I bought it just before I went to uni. My parents and friends thought it would be fun if I got myself a film art book to sort of see more artsy, but also I really like this movie. I think I think the art book has sort of heightened my love of the movie. I think the design of the movie, the art style, I've always loved sort of a cyberpunk or a sci-fi world. I was playing Split Fiction with my friend, and we were talking about whether or not we prefer science fiction or fantasy. And I think I definitively love science fiction. I love Alien. I love Scorn's a really good one. It has such really cool pages. I think this is one of the art books that has the most the writing that I have. There's some fun things, in the art book it talks about how the global warming situation in the future has gotten worse, so there's a bunch of snow instead of the rain that was in the first movie, which I think is fascinating, and the movie never really goes out of its way to explain that, other than by showing, they show in here, the snow plows and whatnot, and sort of the design of the people wearing coats and stuff, which is just really cool, and it made me think oh yeah, at the end, the famous bit at the end when Ryan Gosling dies. Spoiler warning, sorry, it's been out for years, so you've had time. But I think it's really fun, and the way they use a lot of light in the movie is really fun. I think Jared Leto's scenes, say what you will about Jared Leto, but I think there's some movies where he genuinely is a good actor, but not as Joker. But I think, yeah, it's just a really awesome movie, and I love the design of it. There's a fun reference they talk about one of the earliest concepts they had. They talked about how the designer put a little Easter egg to his daughter, I think, in one of the little bits of concept art, which I thought was really nice. I love when designers put little Easter eggs for themselves, and I think that's wonderful. There's another thing I love in these art books is when they have a page dedicated to the graphics of something. It happens in the Death Stranding one. There's the barcode of the acronym jacket, or there's a barcode that's on his handcuffs, which are really nice. I love seeing little things like that. So yeah. There's one other thing I like this one has is when you see the police station and they have little grates for where drunk people would just piss on the floor, and I think that's hilarious and such a strange attention to detail. It's very fun. Whoops. The next art book I have, the Doom art book. And I like this one. A friend got this for me for Christmas. This was a big surprise. Again, I talked about smell with the Death Stranding art book. But this one smells really lovely. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I just think it opened on my favourite page. We're just seeing the Cyber Demon, which is my favourite demon from the game. I love Doom. I love the sort of grungy aesthetic of 2016, and then the sort of more video gamey retro style that Eternal has. It's fascinating to see a lot of the art from the demons specifically. Some of them look more 2016 coded, and some of them look more like Doom Eternal actually looks. So I think there was more of an overall philosophy of making it look more like Doom 2 or Doom, the original classic Doom, which I really like. I think this Cyber Demon is amazing, and they should be very proud of it. Hugo Martin should be very proud of it. There's some interesting things for the demon that's kind of got a bunch of explosive canisters stuck into its body. There's other versions where it's just a pack of souls that you would just punch and it would explode, which I think is so cool, and it's much more in line with Doom 2016 than Doom Eternal. That concept of just a bundle of souls. But I personally, I'm always someone who looks at these art books and thinks the weirder designs are the ones that I like, or the more like grotesque and uncomfortable ones are the ones that I like. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. My copy of the book, the final page, I don't know if you can see that, but on the corner here, these pages were stuck together by a white piece of paper. I had to cut it off to be able to really take in toys, but I think they look so cool. But I think it's quite nice to have, as annoying as that is for a product like this, I think it's quite interesting and fun to have like a little like quirky individual thing with my version of the album and the story to tell. So I'm not really perturbed by that sort of malfunction. But I just thought I'd mention it because it's quite fun. So yeah, they talk about some stuff with the multiplayer. It's just it's a nice compact. There's some demons I would have liked to have seen early designs of, but I think the ones that I did get to see early designs of, and I would recommend picking this one up to see sort of all the weird and wacky designs they would have had for the Archvile and other demons and the Doomslayer himself. So I have Doom the Dark Ages now, and I have the vinyl for it, so I think it's just a fun combination to have music playing of the thing that you're reading and get even more immersed in the world. And I think that's why those two things always come in tandem, and it comes in with the next book. So let's get into that one. Across the Spider-Verse is a really good movie. I have a lot of conversations with people about like whether or not Into the Spider-Verse is better, and I think there's so much in the DNA of that movie that's just on a whole nother level, and everyone who made that movie should be proud. But equally, this movie is incredible. I think the art for this one is so much more diverse, and it really goes into the idea of everyone being different. So many characters in this movie with different art styles. Speak of the devil, Hobie Brown. Hobie Brown's his sort of scrappy, sort of unfinished design kind of inspired my sort of punkified version of my 21 Pilots tattoo, which I'll have on screen, which is another video that I have on the channel. If you want to check out that video, I'll put it up here. But I think what a fun like design of a character, and sort of I always love sort of more scrappy, unfinished designs. That's why the font or the text that I use in these videos is so like randomized and so scrappy, and I really love that aesthetic. So it just happened that I first tattoo was sort of a punkified Hobie Brown Arcane version of the 21 Pilots Skeleton Clique logo. So it's just really good, and there's just so many things, like each world having a different aesthetic in this movie really comes across the sort of watercolor aesthetic of Gwen's universe. There's some fun things, like they talk about how they dubbed certain characters, like the alternate version of the Prowler or Miles, and at the end of this movie is really cool, and sort of their headcanons for what they thought the characters would be called. And there's a whole bar section in this book that was never in the movie, but it is mentioned in the Spider-Man 2 video game. I think it's always fun to see like what things made it into the final cut and what didn't. A really cool version of Hammerhead here. Just all around it, there's some big page spreads with the different like moods for the different scenes, and I think those bits are really fun to see sort of like how far in advance things were planned out, and how the color was chosen for a specific scene. I think really adds a lot there. And as I mentioned previous book, I have the vinyl for the Across the Spider-Verse movie, so I have played that vinyl while reading this art book, with coffee, of course, and that's just sort of another way of getting so stuck in and brought back into this world, or worlds. It was interesting seeing these different versions of the Spot having a face was really interesting. It's my favorite part of the vinyl is how it's like the two versions of the Spot when he's at the beginning of the movie and you kind of don't take him too seriously, and then he goes full bad guy, like I'd say around the midway mark of the movie, and then you never see him again. Well, you see him at the end, but I think it's really fun to just see that and see those sort of design elements make it into the art book or the vinyl. It's exciting. Different versions of Miles' suit. It's just an incredible art book, and I got it for myself after Christmas, so I just thought I have to get this one. I've been putting off getting this one, so I may as well just snatch it. I encourage you to get this one. It's really good, especially if you like the movie, and I hope to see what the next one will be. Before we move on, I'd like to have some honourable mentions for some art books that I have downstairs that I don't hold too close to my heart, and these ones are definitely the standouts. Oh, one that's like, it belongs to my brother, so I don't want to Last of Us art book. That one is just incredible. I remember in the game even unlocking all the pieces of art and being so encapsulated by the sort of idea of eco-brutalism, which is the sort of brutalism with sort of plants growing around it, and I think that's just so lovely and so fascinating to see how the alternate versions with Abby, how that story was going to be way different originally, and I think, and how early on Joel's passing would be. I think that's amazing, and it came with a little art piece, like a singular framed art piece, and I think that's so cool to have a little bit of that. And as well, once again, I have the vinyl for The Last of Us 2. Once again, I yearn for a relax, so it's always warming to step into these worlds, or even heartbreaking in this instance. So I think that one's just really cool. And that one never gets old. And like I mentioned earlier, that one also has a page near the end where it's just a page or two of just the graphics for the different shops, the stickers, whatever. And I think I love those little ways that they will put these little tiny details on things to really make it feel big, and a lot of effort's been put into just those logos for the a coffee shop or a record store within the game. So I think that's always very fun. The cyberpunk, the World of Cyberpunk book isn't technically an art book, but I think it has so much presence of understanding the world and the advertisements within the game, and understanding the war. There's one bit where I think I was reading where it went North California. I went, excuse me, and then I had to look it up, and I think that sort of engagement, a book that is meant to be an in-world, what I can imagine is sort of an in-world explanation of things, and then it sort of just says North and South California. You're supposed to I suppose because you're in the world, you surely enough know that, and I think that's really fun, and it's just really fun to see the corruption within the ads, and because you see them on the screens, but you never really get to pay attention fully to them, and I think putting them in a book is really the way to do that, to let you soak in all the griminess and the grubbiness of a corporate dystopian world. So let's move on to the final art book. For our final art book, we have the Arcane art book, which is the most recent one that I have bought, and I bought that in Waterstones in London, and it's huge, and I think my favourite part of it is the sort of the fact that this book specifically has a bunch of inserts, so it'll have the map all tilt over, really nice to look at, and there's another bit later on which has the hex core blueprints, which is really nice, and I think it's just a nice way to get you invested in the world. I love that it's from the point of view of Jinx annotating all over it, and I think that's just brings it to life and in tandem with all these inserts and little nuggets of things. So, and once again, the sort of design of the sort of scrappiness of Jinx's logo and the sort of overall aesthetic of Jinx and Arcane and the, how it's all hand drawn is always beautiful and has inspired me in a lot of ways, specifically in my tattoo. But I kind of always had sort of a scrappy aesthetic with the writing, so to see this sort of art style be represented in mainstream media and win awards and things is so cool, and it makes me feel emboldened and empowered to just be creative and to just continue making things scrappy and unfinished and intentionally so, to just be unique and be myself. And I think at the end of the day, that's what sort of Arcane is kind of. It's a tragedy, but also sort of a bunch of people who have been through things, just trying to find meaning, I think is a lot of what the show is about, and I think it's just a really incredible show. If you haven't watched Arcane, give it a watch. You will thank yourself for watching it if you do, and I think just it's a pleasure, and I think everyone who made the show should feel proud, and I look forward to what the spin-off shows are gonna be like. I can never get enough of this art style. There's a bunch of games that have been shown off that look a lot like Arcane, and I think I'm definitely excited for those. I think there's one called No Rest for the Wicked, which looks amazing and looks a lot like this, so I think I'm definitely very excited for that. But yes, give this one a shot. It's expensive, but I think you get definitely more than you bargained for with this one. And there's a bunch of different surprises, and I'm still finding things even months after to originally buying it. So I'd say, if you want this one, give it a shot. It's really cool. As a sort of roundup, I'd like to talk about the art books that I want to get. Obviously, Death Stranding 2's art book is just released, so I'll definitely be getting that at some point. I might even wait for Christmas to have a sort of full circle moment with that art book. So that'll be really cool to read and see the different design choices. I think the variety and BTs in that game are so cool. So I'm excited to see how those developed and grew over the time that game was in its development cycle. Another one I like is Scorn. I really like H.R. Geiger's sort of technological, biological amalgamation and the stuff that he makes. So I definitely am intrigued and excited to see that one. I really want to get the Bloodborne art book. I didn't even know it was happening or anything about it until I was in Waterstones the day I got the Arcane art book, and I saw it and I took a picture of it because I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'd love to get like a Demon Souls art book. I'll put it on the screen, but I have a Demon Souls tattoo because I just love the art style. It's a shame what's happened to Blue Point, but I think that game looks amazing. It's probably the best looking game of this console generation. I definitely love an art book for that, and there's a I think it's Tune and Fairweather. I think Vati Video has participated in helping make that, but it's just a bunch of fan made art books and lore books for the Soulsborne games, and I definitely like the Demon Archive, the Demon Souls one for that one. I'd love to have that one. So yeah, there's so many art books and I have so much appreciation. I hope I've inspired you to pick any of these up and enjoy any of these. But thank you very much for watching. Have a most triumphant day.